Hello, freaks, geeks, scrufftards, and degenerates. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And Russia makes important gains, primarily south of Pokrovsk. But as we all know, they have also unleashed the North Koreans in Kursk and taking horrendous casualties. The North Koreans still pushed on and managed to take a piece of a valley and a wooded area that now has given Russia a foothold in a vital location in Kursk. And south of Pokrovsk, they are closing in on Andrivka and are potentially not that far off from cutting off Kurakhove from supplies, and they are also moving in closer to Pokrovsk and Pokrovsk itself, and are damn near to breaching the outer perimeter defenses, and are in a good spot to begin planning for assaulting the city itself. Right, so we're kicking off with Kursk, where Russia has secured the territory here east of Psil River after they took Plakhovo. Ukraine has been falling back, and interestingly enough, though, we saw earlier that Russia made a move into Ukraine, north of Alexandria here, to try and outmaneuver Ukrainians in these woods who were defending the bridge across the Psel to Goevo, but we have now learned that Russia has been forced to fall back. And, so these are the woods, as you can see, not much cohesive terrain to defend. So, I mean, Ukraine, you basically needed to push in here. A bit unclear if they have pushed Russia out of these woods here. But, push in here, and these are dispersed trees here. So, not best cover either. If Ukraine focused some artillery here, that might have forced the Russians to fall back from these woods. But I believe the main push would have been through this area here where there is some actual cover, and Russia has been forced to abandon most of the positions within Ukraine here outside of Goevo. So I think that's the most we have a lot of artillery strikes from Russia here on Ukrainians along this road here. These here and here between the forest belts, we have massive hills. So the farmlands here are located on high ground, and here between the river and the hills, Russia has focused a lot of artillery of late, maybe at this location. As well, between Krylovka and Goevo. And we have also seen some week ago that Russia conducted reconnaissance here outside of Krylovka. So maybe an attempt to isolate Krylovka by striking targets here between Goevo and Krylovka as they are scouting locations within Krylovka itself. Who knows? And of course, Russia took this valley or these woods here, going into this valley, sending apparently a whole lot of North Koreans across these fields into here and pushed Ukraine back. So Russia is outside of Kruglenko. Now, what the hell is Kruglenko? I don't see any buildings. Is it a farm? Is it a hidden village? What's that? I don't know. Somewhere here. Wait, what's this? This is Kruglen. Why is the... Okay, Kruglenko is down here. So quite a ways from the North Koreans. Kruglenko down there. Anyway, so they have gained access to this valley. And we will see if they can now begin pushing further in towards Kruglenko down here. And eventually Malaya Loknia. See how that goes. They have been trying to be sneaky and reach Malaya Loknia with some blitzkrieg tactics. That has failed, so I think they may have resorted to good old frontal assaults now, relying on the North Koreans pushing their way through Ukrainian positions instead of trying to bypass them. But that's basically it. Russia has had some successes down here as well, but don't appear to have been able to push out from these windbreaks yet. Novaya Ivanovka appears to be static. So the major thing is this patch of woods here, where we have seen North Koreans pushing in. And jumping down to Pokrovsk, here's Pokrovsk. Russia has made some gains just south of Pokrovsk. They pushed up along this creek here, relying on the cover in among the trees and the creek. As you can see, they avoided the big open fields and made a push into Dashenske. A bit surprising, to be honest. I mean, you would think that Ukraine would have kept an eye on this valley and creek, as well as having these buildings fortified, but Russia made a big push apparently along this route and came into Dashenske and took most of the village, and in so doing have almost breached this outer perimeter. It's not like they're at Pokrovsk. I mean, they still have these open fields across here, but still it's part of the outer perimeter, and they have almost made it through. Same thing at Shevchenko. Most of the town is under Russian control. They may be trying to make pushes towards Peshane. And as you can see, they are widening the gap here. Again, the outer perimeter being breached. Made a push here up to the river Solona. And heading for Vovkove maybe. Or if they're gonna keep pushing towards Solona. They have made some gains outside of Novotroitsk as well. So they're expanding here between Shevchenko and Novotroitsk, and seems to be that they might be heading for Peshane through these windbreaks and coming up this way as well. If that is the case, then they are right outside of the outskirts of Pokrovsk, so can begin assaults if they want to. And also, from Peshane, they can begin moving towards Kotlyne and this factory. And in so doing, cutting, you have one supply route here that is now cut. The supply route goes here. So we have a cut supply line with Russians right next to it. If they continue pushing up, they can cut the supply line here. This, what's it, what the hell? Highway T0406. And then you have a railroad here that can also be cut if they continue pushing. And if they come up this way, rather than focusing on the Dutchne, Vovkove, and go up east of Kotlyne, as you can see, they are close to cutting more supply lines. So holding Peshane will be crucial, I think, for Ukraine. Vovkove and Peshane. Because if they let Russia come up this way, Russia is in a spot to begin moving into Pokrovsk and begin to threaten several supply routes leading into the city itself. So we should keep an eye on these two towns and see if Russia wants to move in here at strength in the coming days. They have also made some gains down here outside of Pushkine, heading for Ukrainka and Novolevnivka. Made some gains in the windbreaks here. But they have made a big push here in this area, moving up towards Sukyali, taking that small town or village, and they have pushed into Selenivka as well. And they are pushing up the windbreaks here towards, Kostyantynopil is what I think they're after. Ulakli is, the Sukyali River is in the way. If we zoom in here, you can see the river, and you have some canal systems here all over the place. So it kind of suggests that Russia will be funneled towards Konstantinopel by the river here, coming up this way. And when that happens, or if that happens, it kind of looks as if it's going to happen. Well, then Russia cuts this highway here, as you can see, right? If they're in Constantinople, if they take that small town, and where does that lead? To Kurakhove. And there aren't that many other options. You see, you have the Vovcha River here. Let's highlight it like so. the Volga River, not many roads crossing it. And so if Russia can push up here and grab this town, it's gonna make it difficult for Ukraine to bring in supplies to this part of the battlefield, and Kurakhove especially. And they are outside of Andriivka then. Like we talked about, that they would follow the river up to Andriivka and maybe come down from the north as well in a pincer move to put massive pressure on all the Ukrainians in this part of the battlefield. So Russia is on a roll. They are making headway, and it appears to be in crucial locations. If Ukraine allows Russia to continue further north here, it's going to be difficult to hold Kurakhove. You have a road here to Shevchenko, another Shevchenko. You have Shevchenko here. Imagine sending mail in Ukraine with all these towns having the same name. My God. Anyway, so Shevchenko, and the road continues over to Staraya Ternia, that is under Russian control, and then into Kurakhove. So don't see any bridges or roads elsewhere that they can use. No. Since Russia is holding on to Staraya Ternia and they are pushing towards Constantinople, it's looking bleak for Kurakhove, to be honest. In Kurakhove, Russia has been making moves as well. And as you can see here, we seem to have a lot of high-rise buildings here in the middle. Russia has bypassed those. They went down here south through these smaller buildings here and came up behind all the high-rise buildings towards this... What is that, a pool or what is that? Anyway, towards this blue space here, and came into these parks, and is it a pool, blue, whatever, and coming up behind the high-rise buildings, and seems to be moving through territory that is not as easy for Ukraine to defend. You have parks, smaller buildings, residential areas, and if they can come up towards the dam, you have a lot of Ukrainians trapped in a pocket that might have to fall back. And then Ukraine needs to defend this massive factory area here. That might actually be a tougher nut to crack for Russia than the town itself. But, I mean, again, Russia is moving up towards here and cutting supplies by the looks of it. And if Ukraine can begin to come down from the north as well, I think Ukraine will have to... did I say Ukraine comes from the north? If Russia comes down from the north, then Ukraine will have to abandon this part of the battlefield if Russia begins to move in on Andriivka. It kind of seems as that's where we're heading. Over here, I haven't really mapped things out as of yet, but Russia has made a push back into Novye Komar, threatening to isolate Velika Novoselka from the north. Makarivka is, well, for all intents and purposes, overrun. And so they are moving in towards Velika Novoselka from the south as well. So I think at the moment Russia has the upper hand. What Ukraine needs to do, and this is nothing strange, I've been saying this for how many months, that Russia will grab territory here. And it is when they begin to make a move into Pokrovsk that things may turn around for Ukraine. And it is in Pokrovsk and in Mirnorad that Ukraine could actually turn this battle around. Down here, Russia will gain territory and they will push out to the river here, inevitably. What Ukraine needs to do is inflict as many casualties as possible as they lose terrain. It's just the reality of the situation down here. And it is when Russia begins to moving in here where they need a 10-1 advantage to stand a chance of having a success in each individual combat situation. That is when Ukraine can actually win this battle, just like Russia did at Stalingrad against the Germans in World War II. But for that to happen, they need to keep supply lines open, and which is why I think Russia will keep pushing this way, like we said, through Pyshanev of Kovge, come up east of Kotlyne, between Kotlyne and Pokrovsk, and try and reach the supply routes here, would be my guess. And that would mean Ukraine has one or two, maybe three supply lines to rely upon. That's all they need, though. As long as they have one supply line, they can hold. But it makes it obviously more difficult if you only can bring in supplies via one road here in the north. But yeah, we're nearing a point where Russia will begin to attack Mirnorod and Pokrovsk, and we're nearing a point where Ukraine will fall back from this part of the front line entirely, would be my guess. So between Kursk and Pokrovsk, Russia is currently having success, and they have taken some crucial territory here outside of Pokrovsk. And here we are, not that far off from New Year's Eve and 2025, and like I've been saying for months, there was no way in hell that Russia would be able to throw Ukraine out of Kursk in 24, and Pokrovsk would not fall in 2024. In fact, that battle will continue well into 2025. And all the Vatniks have, for these couple of months, been proclaiming how wrong I've been with these statements. But here we are, closing in on 2025, and Russia has a lot of work to do to kick Ukraine out of Kursk and occupy Pokrovsk in that short of time. So, but we'll see. Who knows? You never know. Things may happen. But that's it. That's all I have for you. Hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go po march, Ukraine, and give them hell.